I'm Tom Johnson, Thomas Johnson, Antique Furniture Restoration in Gorham, Maine. This will be a little different video. You usually see me working on antique furniture, but of course I work on any wooden object. And over the years I've worked on a lot of guitars. This is a solid body electric guitar made in Korea in the late 1970s, Les Paul copy. It's called a Series 10, and unfortunately it fell off a guitar stand and the neck broke, and we are going to glue that neck back together. I also have a small amp here. It's a Gorilla amp made in the late 80s. It doesn't really have any special cachet, which is good because we're going to attempt to dye the Tolex cover. So obviously, first thing is to remove the strings. I noticed that this piece overlaps that. That's the kind of thing that happens in a catastrophic break like this. Okay, now I'm going to dry clamp it. In other words, without glue. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to clamp this. I want to put this in the vise so I can see both sides of the neck at one time. I think I need to remove this truss rod cover because I'm sure I'm going to put a block across here. Okay, as I prepare for this glue up, you're probably wondering what kind of glue I'm going to use. I'm going to use aliphatic resin glue, which is yellow wood glue. And I believe in a situation like this, that's the best to use. I've got really perfect wood-to-wood contact here because this has never become separated. And I think that if you have really good contact, the water-soluble glue, it swells the fibers of the wood, they kind of interlock a little bit, they dry, and the wood fibers themselves are locked together. And I believe that that's the strongest glue joint you can have, assuming good contact. I've mentioned this many times in my videos, but I can't overemphasize the importance of doing a dry run. I got a little part right here that I think I need to clamp this way when I can get in there. find out tomorrow. All right, great. We'll start on the amp. I'm going to remove everything, starting with the corner hardware, which the client wants painted black. So I'm seeing that the board to which the speaker is attached is glued in there with glue blocks. I'm prone to leave it. I got to decide what I'm going to do. But in the meantime, at least I can disconnect the amp, and the wires are already marked, and I can get the amp out of there. Okay, now I'm going to spray it with this vinyl dye. It's called a dye. It's white, and it's made for spraying this kind of vinyl surface. I'm going to take advantage of the beautiful day it is outside and do this outside. You're supposed to spray 3 coats of this within 1 hour. This last coat is supposed to be a really wet coat, so I thought I'd do it inside. My can of this vinyl dye was running low, so I wasn't able to get as good a coat as I wanted on top. I'm going to angle it slightly so I can spray this better. Alright, let's see what we've got here. Okay, looks really good. It's funny, I can feel this crack around here, but the alignment is perfect. Now I've got to clean all this glue off the face of this. I've left this rag on for a few minutes. You can see how it's loosening up the glue. Now I want to see if I can get some of the glue out of where that chip was missing. Now I'm going to fill that space with epoxy putty, and I'm going to chisel it off before it hardens. You know, my goal here is to really minimize the amount of sanding I do in this area. I'd like to smooth it up a bit without cutting through the color. You can dip your putty knife in water and smooth it out some at this point. Now I'll set the timer for 5 minutes. I want to come back and check this. If you're going to get the excess off, you really got to set a timer and check it. It usually takes about 7 minutes. I'm going to check it after 5. Once again, a little water on a Scotch-Brite pad. Now I'll let this putty dry, for about half hour, 45 minutes or so. Now that this is dried, I can see that it needs another coat. But actually I'm glad, because I also noticed this little defect here, which at first I thought was covered up by the corner brace, but it's not. So I've got to repair that. And there's a void here. There's nothing here. So I'm going to mix up some epoxy putty and then clamp this into position with the epoxy putty underneath of it, and that will work as an adhesive. I'm going to paint the amp hardware black. So first I'll abrade it with a gray pad, clean it with a degreaser, spray it with a primer that happens to be white, and then the black spray paint. So what I'm doing here is I mixed up a degreaser, a crud cutter, and some water, and I'm going to sand all these metal pieces with 600. You know, the 600 paper isn't really knocking down the gloss that I feel like I need to do before I paint these. So I think I'm going to hit them with a maroon Scotch-Brite pad first. That seems to be taking down the gloss. And then I'll just use the same pad and wash them with the degreaser. And we'll see what happens after when I spray them. So first, I'm going to hit these with primer, and you'll notice that I turn these over because I want to get that little edge. Now in the meantime, I'm going to spray another coat of the vinyl paint on the amp case. Okay, back to the guitar itself. These areas where I puttied, they're really smooth. I'm just going to sand this a little bit with some 320 and put some sealer on it, and then I will touch up my putty. It's got a decal here. We can't really do too much to the whole thing. Also, it's not my goal, nor the owner's goal, to make this like perfect or anything. This is a working instrument. But I'm going to touch this up a bit. Okay, now I'm going to get back to the hardware. I read the directions on the can of the primer and paint, believe it or not, And you have to apply all these coats within 1 hour, depending on temperature and humidity, or you have to wait 48 hours between coats. And I'm not waiting 48 hours, so. So I've let the sealer dry. Now I'm going to do some touch-ups. A lot of these smaller areas I can do with a fine tip marker. I have a larger area here. I'm going to mix a little powdered stain. It's made to mix in shellac. I'm going to mix it with alcohol first and then in some shellac. Now that's a little light, but it's good. I may tone that with a toner. I'm going to touch up these other lines with the fine tip marker, and then I may tone it. Alright, that's not looking bad. I'm going to spray it again with the medium walnut toner. And after I spray it, I'm going to wipe away with a rag and a little alcohol where the original color is. I'm going to get rid of any toner that's on that area. Okay, I'm just going to leave this alone at this point. I don't want to push my luck. I'm going to spray it with a couple coats of gloss lacquer. Alright, I've let this dry overnight. Now I'm going to sand the entire headstock just lightly with 320 and give it a coat of low luster lacquer. This doesn't have too much of a sheen on it. That dried fine, the low luster lacquer. So now I'm going to go over the whole guitar with the oil and beeswax polish and then reinstall these tuning pegs. one of the collars is missing, and there's a replacement available, but the owner didn't get it to me yet. We'll put it on later. So there you have it. It's a nice little guitar. Of course, as you know, the neck was completely snapped. And as you heard me say many times in my videos, and especially in my video, what glue do I use? I've always said that the wood glue is the strongest glue. If you have good wood-to-wood contact, which we had here. In fact, in the back here, I didn't even need to touch this up. So far it's withheld the pressure of the strings. It's nice, the amp looks good. I don't play the guitar myself, but I think it sounds pretty good.